What is up, NFL fans, and welcome back to another episode of the NFL Whip Around. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by Coach Kevin Smith after a wild Week 14 in the National Football League. Coach, what's up?
What's up, Jeff? It's getting good. It's getting exciting in the NFL.
Every week in this league, I know less about this league. Would you agree with that sentiment?
That is a very accurate statement. I agree. I would not want to have to, be on national television telling people, "Oh, here's what's going to happen," because who knows?
Well, I feel bad for Pez. I are your boy Pez, and you do a show with him every week, and obviously I do the Pez's Picks podcast with him. It's a complete crapshoot. Every single week, you have no idea what's going to happen. Let's talk about it. We have 5 topics and a profile at the end of the show. Let's start off with the Kansas City Chiefs, who lose to the Houston Texans in Arrowhead on Sunday Night Football, and they have a losing record, and they're on the outside looking in. What do you think about the Chiefs? Is it a bad season, or is their dynasty over? This is a tough question. What do you think, Coach?
I'm inclined to lean towards the former, that this is a bad season. Their schedule's been brutal. You and I talked about this back in August. They've been in 5 out of the last 6 Super Bowls. That equates to almost an entire season's worth of extra games beyond what most teams have played over that time. At what point does the attrition simply get to you? And the reason I think maybe this is, I don't want to say a one-off, but maybe this is just not a year where they're going to be able to get to the championship, is because they're still young for the most part. I mean, Kelsey's older. He's going to leave soon. Guys like Chris Jones are getting up there. Mahomes is only 30, which in quarterback years is right in the middle of your prime. And you got a lot of young talent on both sides of the ball. So I don't know. I mean, is Kansas City going to be the dynasty again? I doubt it, but I don't really think they're suddenly going to wind up a 4-win football team.
I do think that it's one of two. It's the league is slowly catching up with the Chiefs in terms of how they do things, what they can do to kind of disrupt what Andy Reid's offense likes to do. Their offensive line is awful, and they're banged up. They lost more offensive linemen on Sunday Night Football. How much do you think of the Chiefs' struggles this year has been based on an inability to protect Patrick Mahomes and do the things that they typically do, running the ball well? What's your take there?
I think it's part of it. They are, as you said, not as good up front as they've been in recent years. But I think the big thing, though, is, remember, they had that streak where they won, what was it, like 17 straight one-score games? And now this year, I think they're 1-6 in one-score games. I mean, the margin between teams in the NFL is not that big. And we're seeing that, a great example of that all through the league this year. So for the Chiefs to be able to win those close games for years and not win them this year is a defining number.
It's funny. I want to bring this up because I think this is indicative of the AFC in general. The Steelers, obviously, we're going to talk about the second topic. They are now sole leaders of the AFC North. I typically cringe when I think about the Steelers winning the division and playing a first-place schedule. Why? Well, because you typically have to play Buffalo. You have to play the Kansas City Chiefs. Not this year. This is a year that's so weird across the AFC that if you have a first-place finish in the AFC North, and that's the only team that's going to get into the postseason from that division, you're not playing Buffalo, guaranteed. You're not playing Kansas City. You're going to be playing a Denver, or I doubt the LA Chargers, but maybe still I hope you're going to be playing the New England Patriots. Not that those are easy games, but Coach, this is weird. It's weird to have a first-place finish potentially not result in those two teams being on your schedule. Does that say more about the up-and-comers in the AFC or more about these teams maybe not being up to billing?
I think it's a little bit of both. We've seen the rest of the league catch up to the Buffaloes and the Kansas City's a little bit. New England and Denver both won 10 straight games.
That's crazy.
It's an unbelievable streak of games in the NFL for two teams. I mean, the Patriots are flat out bad last year. They were a 4-win team. The Broncos were mediocre. So it's been impressive what those two teams have done. And it just goes to show you that, the old Jerry Glanville quote, NFL stands for not for long.
And the thing about the Chiefs, and they've had one hell of a dynasty, and I do say that intentionally because it has been a dynasty, and we haven't seen a dynasty like this probably since Tom Brady and the Patriots. But I'll never count them out. As long as Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are there, I will never count them out, even for the duration of this season. But Coach, do you agree that is this season over?
they're in 10th place right now in the
Yeah.
AFC, and they've got some teams that they need to hurdle, and they don't have an easy schedule the remainder of the way. So I'm hesitant to say it's over, but it feels like it's over.
I'll say it. It's over.
It's
This
over.
year,
Okay, done.
over.
Good.
Let's
Good.
All right, let's go to the second topic. The Pittsburgh Steelers that we cover closely at Steel Curtain Network. Are the Steelers the favorites to win the AFC North after their victory in Baltimore? So let's recap what's coming up, because it's really a two-horse race now with the Bengals bungling their game up in Buffalo and losing that one. They're basically out of it. Here's what both teams have remaining. For Pittsburgh, they host the Dolphins on Monday Night Football. Miami's playing better. We'll say that right out of the gate. Then they go to Detroit, to Cleveland, and finish up with the Ravens at home. The Baltimore Ravens go to Cincinnati. Then they host the Patriots, their final home game of the year. They go to Lambeau to play the Packers, and then to Pittsburgh to finish it out. Coach, how do you see the AFC North shaking out if you're predicting it heading into Week 15?
I mean, that's a tough closing stretch for Baltimore, no doubt about that. They've got really Cincinnati is still playing good football right now with Joe Burrow back. So they got 4 tough games. The Steelers don't have any layups, but you would definitely rather have Miami at home and Cleveland on the road than what Baltimore has. So the edge, I mean, it's Pittsburgh's division to lose right now.
We've been here before. That doesn't mean it's set in stone by any stretch of the imagination. But I want to talk to you about the game in Baltimore. It was a close one, 27-22. Some very controversial calls happened in that game. Let's start with the Isaiah Likely would-be touchdown, but gets negated because he does not complete the third step. And this is by the letter of the law, Coach. I'm normally the one railing on officials, but what do you think about it?
I hate the law. I hate it. It's so stupid. We have so convoluted the idea of what a catch is. It's one of those things where it's like, don't believe what your eyes are telling you. Believe what some, to quote the great Marv Levy, who passed away on Monday at the age of 100. And we're going to talk about Marv Levy at the end, but some over-officious jerk, one of the great Marv Levy quotes, has decided that a catch now requires a third step. And they interpreted the rule completely correct.
Yeah.
I just think the rule stinks.
And this is not new, but people are like, this is ridiculous. But go back to Des Bryant in Lambeau Field, and that would-be catch. Go to Jesse James against the New England Patriots at then Heinz Field, and the would-be catch. There's a number of examples of how this is just the way that they officiate this play. And he didn't complete the catch. I agree with you, Coach. I like to trust what my eyes tell me, and that told me that it was a touchdown. And as a Steeler fan, especially one that lives in Maryland, it makes me sick to my stomach to say that. But Ravens fans have every right to be pissed off. But let's go a step further. What did you think about the Aaron Rodgers throw, tipped into the air, and then somehow ruled that he caught it and was down by contact for a negative 9-yard reception?
I thought that was completely correct. I thought 100%. They had a video image of Aaron Rodgers with his hands on the ball and the defender's hands on the ball and Aaron Rodgers' knee on the ground. And by the rule, man, that's like a tie going to the runner in baseball, that the offense retains possession. I thought that was clear as day.
Okay, so now the $1 million question. How would you fix is it a catch or is it not a catch in the National Football League?
I feel as though in the end zone in particular, if you have 2 feet down in possession, that's a touchdown. Because think about this. The ball simply has to break the plane. A running back who launches himself towards the goal line, if he stretches the ball over and it breaks the plane, but then is immediately knocked out for a fumble, that's still a touchdown. True. So if a receiver catches the ball, lands with 2 feet down in the end zone and possession, how's that not a touchdown? Why does he now have to take a third step in the end zone for that to be a touchdown?
Okay, so let me then ask you a question to tack on to what you just said. Let's go back to a sideline corner toe tapping situation. 2 feet in, catches the ball, but when he hits the ground and he lands, he loses possession. How do you rule that under your vision of this rule?
This is where I think you have to almost separate the rule. In the field of play, if you want to make that argument to complete the catch, we need to have a defining way of determining whether he completed the catch. And if it's going to be the third step or maintaining control as he hits the ground, I'm okay with that. But I have a huge problem with these plays in the end zone simply because this breaking the plane thing with possession is a different set of circumstances.
So go back to what the scenario I just laid out. Would that be a catch?
Well, I mean, that one in the field of play, under
it's
the
in the
current
end zone.
rule?
It's in the end zone. He's in the end zone corner. Think Santonio Holmes, except when he falls to the ground, he drops it.
It's a catch.
Is it a touchdown?
It's a touchdown. 2 feet down, possession of the football, having broken the plane. That's a touchdown. That's logic, right? Isn't that clear logic?
Well, nothing the NFL does is logical outside of make money. So at this stage, I mean, I feel like when they start to get into the minutia, they're opening Pandora's box, and it can get real ugly in there. So
they are just like they have no idea what pass interference is. They have no idea what it is. You could run a dozen clips of a receiver and a defensive back jostling for position and have a quiz. Is this pass interference? Is this pass interference? We'd all fail it because nobody knows. Nobody knows what the hell pass interference is anymore.
Before we go to the next topic, just a general officiating question. We know that certain quarterbacks get preferential treatment. It was Tom Brady for years. Peyton Manning got preferential treatment. And you saw players like Ben Roethlisberger and other larger quarterbacks get absolutely murdered and never called. Do you feel that preferential treatment, which still happens, Patrick Mahomes, do you feel like that still exists, though, but now it's bleeding its way into the rest of the positions? In other words, let's go to the Steelers. Joey Porter Jr. is a very handsy defender. He always is making contact, but not always interfering with potential route runners. Do you think that the officials are not just calling the play, but also calling individual players? I hope that makes sense. What are your thoughts?
Officials before every game meet as a crew, and they talk about the two teams and they talk about the personnel. So I'm sure that the word is out on guys like Joey Porter, the more aggressive and physical corners. But it also has a lot to do with officiating crews. I mean, there are some crews that are willing to let things go, and there's others that are going to call everything. So I think that there's just, again, so many variables.
All right, let's shift gears. Let's go to another AFC North team, and we're talking about the Cleveland Browns. They're coming off of a big day for their rookie quarterback, Shedeur Sanders, on Sunday, even though they lose to the Tennessee Titans. Shedeur threw for almost 400 yards in that loss to the Titans. Kevin Stefanski said Sanders would remain the team's starting quarterback for the rest of the season. Could Cleveland have found their franchise quarterback? This is interesting, Coach. What do you think?
Well, Shedeur Sanders has certainly shown progress since he took over. His debut, he went 4 out of 16 for 40-some yards. And Kevin Stefanski said after that game, look, he hasn't had any reps with the ones. Let's give him some reps with the ones and see how he progresses. Well, now he's had, I think, 3 starts, and he's gotten better in each one. And the Browns have been far more competitive than they had been earlier in the season. And that suggests that this is moving in the right direction. Now, I still think it's way too early to tell. Is there enough film out there for defenses to get a good idea of what Cleveland wants to do with him, what his strengths and weaknesses are? We know one thing about the NFL. If you put something on film that is successful, teams will be pretty quick at taking it away. I mean, obviously there are some exceptions to that, but for a rookie quarterback like Shedeur Sanders, the challenge will be to put together a consistent run of standout performances. So if this is week 17 and we're like, damn, he's still playing really good football, then obviously that bodes well for his future.
When you think about quarterback needy teams entering 2026 and potentially drafting a quarterback, there's been some play that makes you wonder what they're going to do. You talk about Shedeur Sanders' success in Cleveland. You talk about Tyler Shuck down in New Orleans, who is starting to kind of figure some things out. They have a big win over Tampa Bay on Sunday. I'll ask you straight out, do you think Kevin Stefanski will be the coach that makes that call after this season, or do you think Cleveland goes in a different direction?
No, I think there's a pretty good bet that he's got some job security there because they know that they saddled him with one of the worst quarterback situations in the NFL. I think the referendum on Kevin Stefanski will be, does the 2025 season produce a verdict on any of these guys? And are they getting better? If Shedeur Sanders continues to improve, then that's a compliment to Kevin Stefanski and his staff. Because remember, not just the Browns, everybody in the NFL thought Shedeur Sanders was a project. That's why he lasted till the 5th round. And if this 5th round quarterback can take over in midseason and play the position at a high level like he did on Sunday, then you got to give credit to the Browns staff. For me, next year will be the year where things are going to have to improve in Cleveland before Stefanski sees the hot seat.
Okay. Now you talked to Coach Stefanski personally, and let's just say that you had a candid moment with him, no cameras or anything around. Do you think if you asked him, Coach, if you went back and could do it over again, would you do anything different? Do you think he would say, maybe I wouldn't have traded Joe Flacco, or maybe I would have hoped that Kenny Pickett doesn't injure his hamstring early in the process and we end up getting rid of him? You think they would have done anything different if they had that in hindsight?
I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think a lot of teams would say, damn, I should have taken Jackson Dart. Because he certainly looks like the most promising quarterback in that class. The Browns, the way everything fell, their situation was fairly convoluted. You still have to remember, Deshaun Watson is still on that roster, and when he's getting healthy now, and what do they do about that? And that they don't have any clear answers just yet. And I think that they were in a position where they had to entertain as many options as they could because of that. They weren't drafting a quarterback in the 1st round. They didn't believe that there was anybody there until the 3rd round that they were interested in. And so this is the year to hash it all out. Next year's the year they got to have the answer.
It's going to be interesting to see how they handle with their quarterbacks that they drafted in Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, and what they do with multiple 1st-round picks next year. Do they go after another quarterback? It'll be fascinating to see. You brought up Jackson Dart, though. Quick aside, what do you think about him and his play style? This guy, he got absolutely rocked again. Now, no concussion. Is that tough to coach out of a quarterback, to not just get out of bounds, slide, give yourself up? What's your take on that just as a coach?
It is. It is. I'll just speak for our quarterback at Ocean City High School, a sophomore, a young man named Jackson Becker, who's a big, tough, physical kid. And his whole world is run through people, I'm going to run over and through people. and we, and I've had to tell him on many occasions, it's okay to step out of bounds. This is every rep is not a referendum on your manhood. And I don't even think it's that. I don't think it's like, I'm going to show people how tough I am. I think that's right now the only way he knows how to play. And it's our job at some point to coach it out of him, just like it was Brian Daboll's job to coach it out of Jackson Dart. And Brian Daboll didn't do that. He put Jackson Dart in harm's way a lot with some of the design runs, which you got to pick your spots on those things. You and I talked about this with Anthony Richardson and the Colts 2 years ago, man. The dude gets hurt. They put him back on the field. They call a design run on the very next play, gets hurt again, and he hasn't been the same ever since. You got to pick your spots. You can't run your quarterback like he's a running back.
Let's run with this. What do you think about the Colts and Daniel Jones torn Achilles tendon? Ruptured. Sorry, you got to say ruptured for some reason with the Achilles tendon. And then Riley Leonard's banged up going into next week. I don't know if Anthony Richardson's capable of coming back. I don't know if the Colts win another game, Coach. This has been crazy. What are your thoughts on the Colts?
Yeah, and not only is this season done for them, whether they make the playoffs or not, they don't have the quarterback now.
No.
But it also muddies the waters for them next year, because Daniel Jones got off to that great start, but he regressed over the last 3 or 4 weeks. And now, before he has an opportunity to maybe turn it around and make you feel good about him again, he's done. So now it's like, is he going to be the guy going forward? Is he the long-term solution, or do the Colts now have to get back into the quarterback market?
Crazy. Wild stuff. It does stink. All right, let's go to the Tennessee Titans, our 4th topic. The Tennessee Titans win on Sunday, and now the Las Vegas Raiders have leapfrogged them and are in position of the top number 1 overall pick as we enter week 15. There's 2 questions here, Coach. Number 1, will Pete Carroll be around next season to coach that player they draft, whether it's a quarterback or whatever position they choose? And if not, who might it be? What do you think?
Yeah. Well, having watched the Big Ten championship game from start to finish on Saturday night, I was really impressed with Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback at Indiana. he really struggled in the first half against Ohio State. And you're, at halftime, you're thinking, I don't know if I believe the hype on this guy. And then in the second half, down the stretch when it mattered most, he was the best player on the field. He looks to me like the legit number one pick in the draft. And if you're the Raiders with Geno Smith, who appears to be at the end of his career, you got to take him. You got to take Mendoza. Now, do you trust soon to be 75-year-old Pete Carroll to be the guy to develop Mendoza? I don't. If I were the Raiders, I would say, Pete, we gave it a shot. Thanks, man. But we're not going to entrust the top overall pick in the draft, especially if he's a quarterback, to you. We're going to find a younger guy who's maybe a little bit more in tune with modern offense.
I think that the Raiders, and I know that, the Davis family is the owner, the primary owner. I think they are going to lean a lot on Tom Brady, who the minority owner, that they're going to lean on him and what he thinks. I don't know what his relationship is like with Pete Carroll, but I agree with you. I don't think that they have any interest in Pete Carroll being there for drafting a quarterback, for trying to put together this team. I mean, Pete Carroll's the one that brought Chip Kelly in, and he didn't even last a season. So you're going to trust this guy with whether it's Mendoza or any other quarterback that could be out there? I don't know, but I do ask you though, do you think that the Raiders suck bad enough to have the number one overall pick, or do you think it'll be another team?
Can they run the table?
Exactly.
Well, it's a close race now between the Raiders, the Titans, and the Giants.
Yeah.
Or all three are 2-win teams. How many does New Orleans have? They won the other day, so I think they have 4 now. So
3 or 4, yeah.
So they're probably out of the running. The Giants don't need a quarterback. Tennessee doesn't need a quarterback, right? So if Tennessee or New York gets that number one pick, then the bidding is on, I think, because I don't know if there's a standout consensus number one who's not a quarterback. There's a lot of debate about various players, but if you're Tennessee or New York, that feels like, boy, we could really cash in with these quarterback needy teams if we got the number one pick.
Well, we talk about, you're talking about the playoff picture, which is our fifth topic here. There's a lot to disseminate around the league. Let's start off with the AFC. Let's talk about the division leaders entering week 5. The Denver Broncos are the number 1 seed in the AFC at 11-2. They have not locked up the AFC West yet, but they're only a few wins away from that. The second seed are the New England Patriots, who are 11-2. The Jaguars are currently first place in the AFC South at 9-4. They're the third seed. The Steelers, the AFC North leader, are 7-6. Then you go to the Buffalo Bills in the first wildcard spot, and they are 9-4. The Chargers, who are they played on Monday Night Football, which we're recording this before that game, so we don't know how that ends up. They're 8-4 heading into that game, and then the Texans are 8-5 in the 7th and final spot. The Colts are still hanging around at 8-5, but then it kind of drops off into losing schedules. 6-7 Ravens, 6-7 Chiefs, 6-7 Dolphins. The teams that are eliminated are the Jets, Browns, Raiders, and Titans. What do you make of the AFC, Coach?
Wide open, absolutely wide open, right? I mean, I've kind of stuck to my preseason pick, which was Buffalo to get to the Super Bowl out of the AFC, but their defense just is shaky. I know they can score points, but they give up a lot of points, and you've just never been able to trust the Bills to win the big game in the big spot. Now they're not going to have the Chiefs hurdle to get over this year. The Chiefs have knocked them out of 4 out of the last 5 postseasons. So maybe that benefits Buffalo, but they're going to have to go on the road to, every one of their playoff games. Feels like a tall mountain to climb. And if not Buffalo, then who? You could throw a dart at 3 or 4 different teams.
Absolutely. I think the AFC it's compelling to watch how this thing shakes out. There could be a lot of movement in the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season. And so, okay, let's go to the NFC side of things now. So when you look at the NFC, I feel like it's a little bit more cut and dry. The LA Rams are currently the number 1 team in the NFC at 10-3. They came off a huge win over Arizona. The Green Bay Packers, they beat the Chicago Bears. They're now the 2nd seed at 9-3-1. The Eagles, as we mentioned, have to play on Monday Night Football, but they're currently the NFC East leader at 8-4. The Buccaneers, 7-6, first in the NFC South. Then we go to the wild card. Number 5, the Seattle Seahawks. They're 10-3. Number 6, the San Francisco 49ers at 9-4. And number 7, the Bears, as we just mentioned, losers in Green Bay at 9-4. On the bubble, You still have the Lions at 8-5, the Panthers at 7-6, the Cowboys still hanging around at 6-1, and the Vikings are technically not mathematically eliminated at 5-8. What do you think about the NFC?
I think the Rams and the Seahawks are the two best teams in that conference right now, the most complete teams. You look at point differentials in the NFL. Seattle and LA are 1-2, and it's not even close until you get to who's number 3. They both have excellent defenses. They can both score. I would give the Rams a little bit of an edge simply because the Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay, Puka Nacua, when you get the quarterback, the elite receiver, and the coach or coordinator all being among the best at their position, that's pretty damn good. And I mean, Stafford's just out of his mind this year right now. I think he's got 32 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, something like that. He's thrown 3 or more touchdowns in 7 games this year. So, I mean, LA just feels to me like they've got a leg up on everybody in that conference.
What do you make of Green Bay? They're a tough nut to crack for me. That I don't know. I watch them and nothing they do really impresses me. Jordan Love looks good sometimes, looks awful at others. What do you think about Green Bay? Currently number 2 seed.
The one thing I like about Green Bay is because they're from Green Bay, they can go play anywhere. They can run the ball. They have good defense. So they're going to be a tough out. But Green Bay's just got this sneaky habit of coughing one up every once in a while. And every once in a while, the Packers lose a game where you're like, oh man, how'd they lose that one? They did it earlier this year to the Browns. And you feel as though they don't quite have they're not invincible. Nobody's invincible, but man, they've got that chink in their armor that some of these other teams don't.
We'll see how it shakes out. A lot of that Monday night game, we'll see how that plays out, and we'll talk about it next week. But let's finish this up with a profile. You mentioned it earlier in the show. Marv Levy, legendary Buffalo Bills head coach, passed away on Monday at the age of 100. A long life, a great life. Coach, what do you want to say about Coach Levy?
Well, first of all, if you make it to 100, you've done a lot right. That's right. You've done a lot right. My grandmother made it to 99. She was like 3 months short of turning 100. Marv Levy, man. I mean, what a class act. He candid, forthright, a guy who never ducked or shied away from the cameras, despite the fact that those Bills teams lost 4 straight Super Bowls. What must the emotional or psychological burden of that have been to carry that for so long? Because nobody focuses on the success. No. Nobody's like, wow, they made it to 4 straight Super Bowls. That's amazing. All anybody ever said was they lost 4 straight Super Bowls. And I would imagine that would just be a very tough thing to swallow. But man, Marv Levy just remained an upfront class act his entire life. No scapegoats, no blame, didn't shy from anything. And, you know, some of the old NFL films with him on the sideline it's just gold. It's great stuff if you ever get a chance to see it.
You can't talk about the 1990s NFL without bringing up the Buffalo Bills and Marv Levy and that great K-Gun and Jim Kelly and all those guys. It's a shame. Like you said, like the guy was 100 years old. Like that's fantastic. So unfortunately, we're losing a lot of the legends in the sport, both coaches and players. And so to Marv Levy and to all his family, we hope he rests in peace. It was a Marv Levy, man. Like you just wish they just won one. Like the Buffalo fan base has been through a lot. You just wish they would have won one of them. But
when I think about tortured fan bases, I mean, you know, that's a great off-season conversation for us to have. But you got to put
up there.
The Jets are up there, but New York fans in general have had a lot to cheer for.
True.
Whereas if you just look at Buffalo as a city, between the Sabres and the Bills, they don't have an NBA team. They did, and they left for the West Coast. They left for LA. The Buffalo Braves became the LA Clippers, San Diego Clippers, and then the LA Clippers, because people were like, I don't want to freaking be in Buffalo. I'm out of here. You know, like I just feel like that's a city that needs like they're due. They need something to celebrate.
Yeah. We shall see if it happens this year. But Coach, why don't you tell us what's coming up on the Call Sheet podcast this week?
Yeah, we got our whiteboard show as always on Wednesday. Our hot route conversation on Friday. We brought on Mrs. Pez.
That's right.
She was great. She was great. Really good perspective on a lot of different things. And we're going to start to integrate various guests on that show as we go, as we are on our whiteboard show. Now that the high school and college seasons are winding down, we're reaching out to college and high school coaches all over the country to try to bring people on. So stay tuned for all that.
Get it wherever you get your podcast by searching The Call Sheet with Kevin Smith. Make sure you check out our Steel Curtain Network content. Wherever you get your podcast, search Steel Curtain Network or steelcurtainnetwork.com. His written work's there as well. Coach, thanks for another great show. We'll talk next week. Take it easy.